so I'm just, when I trim this off, there's a lot of rough crumbs right here. I'm taking those off first.
Such a nice feeling when it peels that clay off.
Right.
Just the right texture.
And one of the things you might want to do is fill this clay. Just run your hand over the top of it. If your hand does not stick as you're dragging it across the surface, that means it's good. If you it's ready for trimming. If you drag your hand over across the top and it kind of sticks, that means clay is going to stick to itself as you're trying to trim it away, and it won't fall away. So you should just let it dry a little bit longer. Okay, so now I've trimmed my foot as narrow as I want it to be. So now I'm going to put my square side, this was the round side, I'm going to put my square side in and I'm going to undercut it. So I'm going to trim the clay away to reverse the direction of this foot. Okay, so by doing that, I give it the illusion of this being a narrow-bottomed bowl. It's very delicate, but it's much more stable because the foot is wider. And I'm going to take a little bit of this texture out here. When I was learning to throw, the person I was learning from did not like it if you did any trimming at all. So if you trimmed the side of the bowl, that was considered.
Done now.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what I learned after about, I guess it would be 30 years.
Okay.
74, 70, 80, 90, 2000.
34 years.
After 35 years of trimming, I've learned to just say, well, what do you want the foot to look like, and what do you want the outside to look like, and just trim it, and don't worry so much.
So this is the last 1 year, or was that in the...
Especially with the crystalline, I've been finding that I really like the nice smooth form without the throwing rings, and if I don't pay attention and get rid of those throwing rings during the throwing process, trimming is just fine. So I guess it's been since then that I've just decided that trimming the whole piece is not such a bad thing. Okay, so anyway, undercut there. And the more dramatic you can make that foot, the more interesting the piece is, I believe. Okay, so you could even go further, but now I'm going to go in here and see how I've got my thumb on the edge of the foot. That's my stabilizer. I could do this, but this is going to move wherever I could do this, but this keeps my tool from going this way. I want to, let's say for instance, this wasn't quite centered. I could be doing this and I'd still trim that would be, let's say you want a 1/4 of an inch wide foot, you could still keep that there by spacing the tool with the thumb moving around. But this is pretty good, so we're just going to do this. And I've got a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to establish my depth first. Okay? And then you go to the center and out to that groove. Okay, so the reason you wouldn't want to go past the groove is when you're trimming like this, you see this part here is also a blade, and when that touches this little corner, it's possible that the tool will be grabbed and go whoosh, and then you have this big gouge right through the foot. So then the next thing I do is I establish that depth, turn this around, and I'm digging deeper and then trimming the side of that foot. You see how I got rid of that little double line there? And then, depending on your preference, I like to eliminate as many hard edges as possible and give the eye only one hard edge to look at. If this is the cleanest edge, then I'm going to leave that sharp. If this is the cleanest edge, I'll leave that sharp and soften this one. So for instance, let's see, there's a little wobbliness going on out here. Trim that off, round it off, and leave this sharp edge here. Alright, so I'm going to just go right around and soften that whole thing just by getting rid of that. That hard edge is gone. This is the only hard edge. So I've got that corner as a hard edge, and I've got this as a hard edge, and it just makes it cleaner looking. So the thing is, when you're trimming, you're not just making a foot, but you're also trying to create a pleasant thing to look at when the person turns the pot over. If the person turns it over and they see, you know, a bunch of this stuff, while it's not horrible, it just doesn't look nice and clean. And it's also hard to sign on. We all know the signature is important. I use a ballpoint pen or a dull chopstick. Yeah. Yeah. And it's too crummy.
Yeah.
And Laura's point I think it was last year, she was saying she's found that she likes to wait for it to be closer to bone dry.
I can do that.
Because it's not like crumb. Yeah. Because then you don't get the little hanging off burrs.
Yeah, you got
and it looks like your signature too if you.
Right. So anyway, yeah, that's nice too.
Yeah, that's about like a ballpoint.
Oh, you do? Yeah, that would be okay. I just do the pen. And so what I'm looking for, I'm going to pick this up now. It's got about 1/4 of an inch trimmed. Wait a minute. Your question was, how do you make this look like an extruded part on there? Right now you see this corner is just a sharp, you know, like a plain corner. I'm going to take my trimming tool down to this, and I'm going to back it up a little bit and trim out a little bit more of the foot. See how that works?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just burnish that. So now it looks almost as if there's a piece added to that. So is that your question?
Right.
You want that?
Well, I just liked it because it looks so precise.
And the idea is we're giving the eye something to look at that's clean and crisp.
Right.
Even if the signature was nasty, you've got a nice nice crisp rim here to look. It's a frame.
And you can glaze it if you want.
Great. You can glaze this whole area down here. This is good. Oh no, it's not. This is what? No.
Sorry.
Can I use your
my tools are lacking.
your signature thing? I think that looks good. And this just kind of pushes the clay around. It's going to be like a ballpoint pen. I'm going to use this one. I have to admit, since I've had LASIK surgery, I can't really see what I'm doing because I haven't learned yet to kind of
push back?
Yeah.